software?
Okay, good. Yes, I think we have audio. So let us know if you can hear us. Okay. I think so. It looks like it is. It's moving. It's moving. Hi, I'm Gory B Movie. And my bangs are weird. Meow, snarf, Lionel.
And we're Horror Addicts.
That too.
For 10 years. Just had our 10-year anniversary. The channel's been going up for 10 years, so thanks for all that are still watching. Or just started watching. Appreciate it. Tonight, we're going to talk about the worst movies of last year, because we got the Oscars coming up, of course. So, we're going to need a lot of nominees. But hey, why don't we just tell you what we saw? We're going to do this at the beginning of January, but there was a couple of movies we wanted to, catch up on before we did it. So now, at the end of the January, we're going to cover the worst, and then later, after this stream, we're going to go to Gory's channel and do the best.
Yeah!
So, won't end on a downer. All right.
Okay, so let's get started.
So, we're going to start with kind of our, mid? Work our way down, or what?
I kind of have them all over the place. So, our
right.
kind of rule for this is we didn't choose anything we were mid on. So, if we gave it 2.5, 3 stars, you're not going to find out on either our best or our worst list. For example, The Watchers was pretty mid. I saw that in the chat, so that is one of the ones that's kind of mid.
Yeah, I admit, I can see why a lot of people didn't like it, though. It didn't do much for me, either.
Agreed. I can't highlight our chat. Oh, well. All right, but we can pull up a movie.
Salem's Drive-In, as I like to call it.
So this one of the things I will say is that this list isn't necessarily the worst movies of the year because it's so easy to just pick the lowest budget ones. Mm-hmm. This list is the ones that were the most disappointing. So we had high hopes for it, or some hopes for it, and it did not satisfy the hopes.
There is
dreams.
Some low budget trash on here as well, though.
But it's low budget trash that we wanted to see.
Yeah, I guess.
Sometimes I like me some trash.
Yeah. So, Salem's Lot, kind of redundant at this point, because we've told this story a few times. I don't feel like this one does it any better. It has glowing flashlight crosses, though. That was neat, I guess.
I think what made this one so disappointing is, it looks like a TV movie. There's a gratuitous use of shitty CGI and this weird, Instagram filter over the whole movie. So it looks cheap. On top of that, what's going on with what they did with Barlow? Bartok?
Barlow? Yeah.
The vampire guy. I don't know. It's either be true to the book and do something that we haven't seen yet, or do the creepy one that Toby Hooper did, because I think we all love that one. I think it's Bartok. Anyway, but then tonally it takes itself extremely seriously. And then you have glowing crosses, which nobody can take seriously.
Yeah. Bartok was also a little bat from Anastasia. And he was in Onyx.
I think I might be getting the name wrong, to be honest.
Jeffrey Combs was Bartok in Onyx.
It's, Yeah, you talk. I'll look.
But, I don't know. Did like the big drive-in scene at the end. That was kind of cool and unique. But I still don't know why this had to be a Salem's Lot movie. I feel like it didn't go out of its way to do anything better. And its tone was all over the place for me because 1 minute it's trying to be really creepy and scary, but then it's like, oh, then someone kind of just gets kicked into their death hilariously by over-the-top action that was almost comedic. I wasn't...
Barlow, that's it.
Oh, Barlow.
Yeah, he just
Barlow
looks kind of goofy in this. He doesn't look scary like in the Toby Hooper one. So, obviously in the novel he's not a Nosferatu-y monster, but I think if you're gonna do that, which is obviously not, this one really claimed to be based on the novel, and it really isn't. So that was the most disappointing thing, because Barlow, that's a Toby Hooper invention, making him look like Nosferatu, and he just didn't look good in this. He has these weird glowy eyes and stuff. I just couldn't take it seriously. And then it's nothing like the book. The creepiest parts of the book are taken out. A lot of the stuff with the priest, especially towards the end, is really creepy. None of that's in there. They just came up with their own ending that has nothing to do with previous adaptations or the book. So I figure if you're just going to make your own movie, why call it Salem's Lot? They took the parts from the beginning and then they just went completely in their own direction with some drive-in stuff that it really takes away from this whole small town thing, because the whole reason that Ben is coming back to this town, I think it's Ben. Yeah. He's coming back to this town is because he saw a man hanging, from his neck in that house when he was a kid. And it's stayed with him. And I think every small town has that one creepy house you don't go to. And that's what this house was. And so he goes there initially to confront his childhood fears for this kind of memoir he's writing because he's a horror author. And that's why the final confrontation needs to be in the monster's house. It has to be there. It's where it all started for Ben, and Ben is our hero, and this is the culmination of his journey. This one takes it to a drive-in, and I admit, seeing the vampires hiding out in a trunk of a car is kind of cool. Mm-hmm. I don't know how effective that would be, but it's kind of cool. It's just not Salem's Lot.
Yeah, Salem's Drive-In. It was a little disappointing, but whatever. I didn't hate it, but I didn't like it.
For me, it was just mediocre. I mean, I didn't absolutely hate it, but it was disappointing because this was due out in 2023. So I think the longer you wait for something, the more you anticipate it. I also had a cousin. We have a cousin who had seen part of it, and he was like, oh, it looks so good. So even though it was getting pushed back, I had high hopes that this was going to be good. Also, one thing I don't like about the book is kind of a sausage fest. Like, massively a sausage fest. And I heard that Susan was going to have a little more to do, and that they had shifted the gender of the doctor. So it's not just a bunch of, white dudes from the East Coast. So I liked that. I was excited for that. But this, it just didn't work,
Yeah, it didn't work for me. That's a no, bro.
It's going to be a no for me,
It sucks, though, because the drive-in will never die.
Yes.
All right.
Hey, Connie Cleary's in the house.
What up? Connie, Brandon, how we all doing? Kayla?
Oh, I know what I'm supposed to do.
What are you supposed to do?
I'm supposed to get this little thing here.
Oh.
And then we can see the chat. It's going to be super rad.
Okay, cool.
Just got to trust me on that one.
I do trust you.
All right. Anyway. Well, maybe not. I was going to do it, but... Oh, no. Okay, you know what? We don't have a chat. That's just... I broke in the whole stream. Okay, you know what?
Don't trust Gory.
That's just the meanest thing I've ever heard. Okay, so I can't highlight the chat. Anyway, let's move on. Let's talk about this hunk of trash.
Honestly, I fell asleep watching this.
Wow. This was one... I feel like they were really banking on, what is that kid's name? They're like, dude, he's the guy in the chair in Spider-Man. He's going to sell this movie for us. Yeah. So they put him in every damn scene, and he's the comic relief character. He is not the main character in this, and he so feels shoehorned in this. What is his name? Jacob Battalion, and he's terrific. We all love him.
Spider-Man.
But a poorly written character is still a poorly written character, and they're really trying hard to just milk him in this movie and squeeze him into scenes and making it comedic, and then the whole movie fails to be scary, which is a bummer, because this is kind of a cool concept. You've got these tarot cards. They all have different, archetypes and stuff, from the actual tarot, like the Hanged Man and stuff. So you could have had something B-movie fun, like 13 Ghosts. And the monsters do look pretty good. But the story, I feel like as soon as they got this Jacob Battalion guy, who's, I think, the only recognizable actor in this, I feel like they did a big script rewrite, and now the script doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I fell asleep pretty early on, to be honest. From what I saw, I didn't like, and from the trailer, I didn't feel like I should go back and watch it yet. Maybe one of these days. I
think for this to be good, the monsters, like in 13 Ghosts, would have to take center stage. And they really are a backseat, because then they also have your main character. And the kills are really toned down and stuff. Like, you honestly don't really see any kills. It's very much a cutaway thing. It really plays it light. But yeah, this one was tonally... It didn't really try to go for any kind of scares, and you don't even really need, I don't remember if this was R or not, but you wouldn't even need an R for this because the monsters are scary enough, and horror movies, the MPA doesn't rate you down for a scary face. So you could have really spooky monsters in this and have it be a really effective slumber party hype horror movie. But unfortunately, these monsters are really just given a back seat to a guy in a chair. So
pick a card, any card but these cards. Don't worry, Brandon. We like a lot of trash, too. Just not this one.
I like me some trash, dude. Just, like you said, not that one. All right, something else we're mid on. I should move these to the bottom, because then I can scroll and stuff. They don't even know what I'm talking about. All right, how about this one? So this one, again, this is a super cool concept. So if you didn't know about this one,
Okay, so Y2K. I lived it. I remember when that happened. I was partying like it was 1999, like Prince told me to, and then all of a sudden we were afraid that our computers were going to crash and planes were going to fall out of the sky and all that stuff. And I sat on my roof that New Year's and waited for anything to happen. Nothing happened. This movie says, what if it did happen? And, basically kind of gives us a maximum overdrive scenario.
Yeah, the scenario here is not that we're not going to have access to all our computer stuff, which was what we were actually afraid of in Y2K, that it was going to be basically the apocalypse because everything controlled by the internet would just cease to work.
Yeah.
They're like, nah, dog, they're going to be sentient and attack you, and it's going to be like Maximum Overdrive or another AI movie. And with the plethora of AI movies we have right now, it seemed like they were really trying to hop on a trend, and it really did away with what could have been a super cool concept.
Low budget Skynet coming after us. Fred Durst is in this though, and he's actually pretty hilarious.
He was rolling.
He plays himself, but he lets himself be the joke. In the
I
scenario,
hear he did it all for the nookie.
The what?
The nookie.
The what?
The nookie.
Stick it up your... Anyways, Gory would agree with you, Mr. Flickster. The Ring is scary.
It's one of my favorite movies.
It can be. This was just kind of funny, but it could have been way more fun, I think. I didn't hate it, but I was a little disappointed. Wanted them to expand on the concept a little more. And the characters weren't very likable for me, except for, Fred Durst kind of being funny at the end. But... yeah.
And that's a shame because they had really good actors in this.
Mm-hmm.
Lachlan, what is their last name?
Oh, that's still Taro.
Balls, Taro, go away. I think Lachlan Watson? Yeah, Lachlan Watson, who was in Chucky and Chilling Events of Sabrina. They're in this. You got the kid who was in Deadpool 2. You got the kid who was in It. You got, the gal who was in that new Hunger Games movie. You've got talented people here. I've seen these young people in other things. Young people, I sound like I'm so old. I've seen these people in other things. They're very talented. They just didn't have a lot to work with. Their characters were egregiously unlikable. Yeah. I feel like this should have been Can't Hardly Wait, but the apocalypse comes. If you've seen Can't Hardly Wait, it is the 90s version of the high school end of the year party movie. Mm-hmm. That is the epitome of the 90s. And in this, it wasn't even just that. I liked a lot of the background stuff, like some of the posters you see and the music. Mm-hmm. But, just a lot of the way they acted, they talked.
I will give it this, though. It gave us a variety of 90s kids, unlike Time Cut, which we'll talk about probably later, but Time Cut did not give us a variety of 90s kids, where this one actually felt like there was different groups, which is a little more how it was.
I would know. I graduated in 99. So, this was my era. I was the exact age of these kids. So, yeah, it didn't really give me a lot of the nostalgia vibes that I was hoping for. So, I've seen a lot of movies that do kind of scratch that itch, but considering that's what this movie was banking on, I really wanted it to just be unabashedly 90s.
Yeah, and it set up like it was gonna be Can't Hardly Wait, but a horror movie, but then it just kind of quickly falls apart.
And maybe it's just a lot of my 90s nostalgia, but for me, 99 was still very much maybe it could be where I lived. It was still very much like the mid-90s. This was really, it had an early 2000s vibe.
Like I said, the kids were just kind of one note or unlikable for a different reason, but could have been better. Just little tweaks.
I was also jealous because they all had computers and stuff, which I know it's part of the plot, but nobody. I had one friend who had a computer, and they were the coolest.
Yeah, so. I think it was 2001 when I finally got my own PC. Finally, it was a hand-me-down.
He was 13, going on 14. I'm gonna not do that song right now because you guys, I like you guys. I'm not gonna subject you to my singing because that's what I do. All right, let's talk about another did you have anything else you want to say?
Nah.
Sound effects are free.
Never find me. Found this movie to be boring and pretentious.
This was one of the. So I feel like, Shudder is pretty reliable with their Shudder originals. They tend to be pretty good. and I tend to trust them, they're usually at least a decent 3-star, 2.5-star film. This was the most boring fucking shit ever. This and Baghead. But this one is on the list because not only was it boring, it was, survey says, pretentious. And if there's one thing that annoys me, it's pretentious fucking films. I feel like when a movie's pretentious and it sucks, it's like when you're around one of those people who thinks, like, all the girls think he's pretty fly for a white guy, but he's not. You know, if you listen to the lyrics of that song, the guy's not cool. It's like one of those guys who thinks he's so cool, and they're not. Like, they're talking down to you, and that's like what this movie does.
It's the equivalent of when South Park had the people sniffing their own farts because they drove hybrids.
Oh, we're so deep. Oh my God, did you see that? Symbolism. I took a class in film school. Look at this. I'm going to do a funky thing with the camera. Now, I will say the actors do a good job. You know, they found good people to be in their masturbatory film. But this is very masturbatory. There is no story here. You follow it along because it really has this mysterious setup. And there's no real payoff. It's balls. It is so many balls.
I was hoping to be wrong because I kind of called how it was going to end. But I was really hoping that's not where it was going because I knew that was going to be a sucky kind of let down ending. But that's what I got. So I was like, all right, you wasted my time. Mm-hmm. Oh, well. I'm sure there was people who enjoyed it. But not us.
But I would say even then, as much as this movie was really like sniffing its own parts and really high on its own supply, I know a few people who liked it like on Letterboxd, but I didn't see anyone giving this one high scores. This movie really thought it was going to be one of these little hidden gems of the year, and it's boring. I think for a movie like this to be really good, you need to have some substance behind it. You need to have something that's going to let people leave people thinking. And this really, it's just a kind of a false mystery, and it wastes your time.
Yeah. That's all I really have to say about that.
I feel like I'm being so mean today.
On my channel, you're going to be mean. Well, go be nice on your channel afterwards.
Yay! I like being nice.
We'll turn it around.
You want me to pick again?
Go for it.
I mean, since we've already talked about pretension, this is the absolute... It's like, this next movie... took a balloon. It spent an entire day after Chili Fest farting in the balloon, and then it was just like which if you do that, it changes your voice, kind of like when you do it with helium.
Pull it up on here as well. Destroy all neighbors.
Oh my gosh. Like I feel like this movie smells like Dakar Noir. That's what this movie is. This movie is like every film stone bruh who is explaining to you why Pulp Fiction is the greatest movie of all time. That's what this movie is. It's a film school bruh movie.
Starring Kosher the Pig.
It stars Jonah Rodriguez, who is great in the Mystery Science Theater. This movie, though, it's one of those movies where if you critique it, that I know the director would say, well, I just need it for myself, to express myself. But the part that's bad about this one is just like the last one. The last one's trying to be scary and mysterious. It's not. You can get away with it if you actually deliver the goods. This one's claiming to be funny. It's highly fucking annoying. So this guy has an annoying neighbor who, I will say, the makeup effects in this are fantastic, and there's some nice puppetry and practical effects if you like things kind of Return of the Living Dead style. The neighbor is played by Alex Winters, who you would know as Bill from Bill and Ted, or maybe remember from The Lost Boys. That's all great, but this guy is really fucking annoying, which you initially get because he's supposed to be annoying. This guy is trying to like do his artsy, lame art rock album that no one's gonna listen to, and he's gonna be like on the side of the highway being like, listen to my demo. But that's what he's doing the whole movie, and so he doesn't want to put up with it, and then he ends up killing the guy. So you're like, all right, okay, where's this going? Then the guy comes back as a ghost, and he kind of finds out that everyone he kills is gonna be part of this band. But where it fell apart for me is like there's no characterization. The moment they come back and he's like, be a part of my band to help me with this alt rock thing, it kind of becomes Airheads where they lock themselves in this thing. their personality is completely different. Their personality is just, yay, we want to help you, and insert lame joke here.
It was weird.
Yeah, it didn't make any sense. There's a whole subplot with his girlfriend that also doesn't make sense. There's no... Like, the characterization makes zero sense, and none of the jokes were funny. Every time it tried to be funny, it was highly annoying.
I didn't think the humor was as bad as Gory did, but I still wasn't into it. Like, I sat through it and go, okay, alright, that was haha at best. I do like Alex Winter, though. I just wish his character knew that you're supposed to be excellent to each other.
I know.
Right? But I was hoping for a lot more with this. Like, I didn't think it was as bad as Gory did, but I also wanted it to be better, because just looking at that poster, I actually like, oh, is this going to be like a zombies,
cool.
like a zombies ate my neighbors type of like movie? Like, because I always wanted a movie of that, but no, it's not. It kind of like, I don't know. It's one of those movies where the poster gives you a much bigger like hype than the actual movie.
I was hoping for something along the lines of like as far as rock horror comedy like Deathgasm, which is really funny. You know, you can have your indie movie that's your passion project and have it be funny. It doesn't, just because it's indie, you don't have to like have this film school bruh pretension about it. And this movie absolutely has that, to the point where it's just not funny. And I also think I think a lot of these people like who come out of film school make their indie film, they think, oh, horror is easy. Horror comedy is easy. It really isn't. I think horror and comedy are the two hardest things to do effectively. I think the hardest things to do are to make someone laugh and to scare someone. And when a lot of these filmmakers come out of film school and they may come out with their indie movie and they think it's going to be an instant success because they think it's easy and they can just do some nice camera work or good effects and they're going to pull off the next Evil Dead. And they don't.
As Flickster said, it's borderline incoherent. That's basically what. Like, I feel like it's got some of that hipster humor in there that was really funny to them as they were like, haha. But
you know what? I think you hit the nail on the head. This movie is the equivalent of when you see old friends and they have a lot of inside jokes and they're laughing their asses off, but you don't know the context.
Yeah.
That's what this movie feels like.
Yeah.
You can tell they had a great time watching this because it's all their jokes.
Yeah, they had a great time making it, which I'm glad.
But you feel kind of left out and confused.
Uh-huh. Like, give me whatever you're smoking. Maybe I'll enjoy it more.
I love Pulp Fiction, but I was briefly a film major and did take a lot of film classes, and I cannot tell you how many dudes, because Pulp Fiction, Psycho, there's a lot of movies you talk about in a lot of film classes, dudes would lean over and be like, did you know this? I'm like, yes, I did. Like, everybody knows that. So.
And as we met Jonah from Mystery Science Theater, and cool guy and all, but he's talked about certain movies, and it's not so bad that it could even be on Mystery Science Theater because it's too self-aware. Like, it thinks that it's in on its own joke, but its joke's just not that funny, and it's stretched out too long.
I like movies that are actually, like, they're bad, but then they're good. It's kind of like, you know, when your toddler runs naked onto the stage, but everyone laughs and has a good time because they're covered in cake. It should be embarrassing, but it's, like, really greatly entertaining. They're wearing a diaper. We're not perverts in this scenario. But, you know, they slip and fall in the cake, and then we all have a good time. Like, is it talent? No. But is it funny? Yes.
Yeah.
I have a lot of metaphors today. I'm so full. I should make a movie. A deep movie.
Blow our minds. All right. Let's move on, though.
Wow, I feel mean today. I'm like, rare. Can I get a rare? I've never gotten a rare. Ooh.
Danny, when I was here, she'd give you a really good one.
Oh, yeah. Yes. Okay, let's just go. I actually didn't hate this one much, but I was disappointed.
Yeah. And I'm feeling like we're getting flooded with these, and once again, good
the AI is strong with this one.
We got, Harold in it from Harold and Kumar. Expected it to be kind of fun.
My boy Brandon's in the chat.
Yeah.
Sorry. Wow. Didn't mean to interrupt, but it's my boy Brandon in the chat.
But it's like the same shit as we've been seeing with Megan and a bunch of other, even the Child's Play remake where this AI thing is going to like take over your house and take good care of you. I think even Black Mirror probably did it best with this step of like horror. And now all these movies are cashing in and doing the same story over and over again. Even Megan Fox's Suburban, which I thought was better than this. It was still not great, but it was better than this. It's just the AI, it's going to be like, well, I'll be your friend and I'll take away your problems, but you're basically my little pawn and now I control your life. And if you don't like it, I'll kill you because that's what AIs do.
Alright, you notice my cool shirt?
Yeah.
I 100% agree. I feel like whenever we discover a new subgenre, it becomes like, well, that's how you have to do it. And people aren't creative. Now look at something like zombies. When Night of the Living Dead came out, zombies were just like people who had been under like a voodoo control. And then they were revolutionized, and now we have seen zombies done in so many different creative ways. Every time I think I'm done with zombies, somebody comes out with an amazing zombie TV show or movie, and I'm like, God damn it, you're pulling me right back in. Same thing with vampires. Even just Dracula, done so many different creative ways. And I wish, like, you know, this AI thing's new, but already they're the exact same stories. What I found extremely disappointing with this is, one, we got John Cho. Yeah. He's usually pretty reliable, aside from this and The Grudge. He's, even in bad movies, he's exceptionally talented and easy on the ice. And this movie, it starts off with, like, there's kidnappers, and I was like, okay. This reminded me of that one Lee Winnell movie, They're Watching, I think it was called. But that one didn't quite hit the mark either. So I was like, well, maybe they're kind of combining a few different things here. And I think there is a thread in this movie that is kind of scary. This idea that no matter what, we really can't escape AI. Even if you have a device in your house, there's AI things everywhere. Yeah. So were it to become sentient and go Skynet and take over the world, we would have nowhere to run to unless you went off the grid. This movie starts to tap into that, and then it falls right back into all the cyber horror stuff we've seen before. Yeah. Upgrade was amazing. Yeah. And I'm not talking about Upgrade. Lee Winnell's in this movie, but he didn't direct it. It's called Always Watching. It's pretty interesting, but it was a cool premise. Execution.
Or I feel like a lot of these movies is like, hey, Hal, but he's in your house.
Did you see what they did there with the AI in Afraid? What? Oh. I just noticed that when I uploaded the image for the stream.
Really? When you just noticed
that? That's when I just noticed it.
Seriously?
Seriously. I couldn't figure out why they went with Afraid. I was like, that's a weird generic title.
Yeah, because AI is in the
whatever, you Afraid. Married me.
But
have higher standards. Love yourself more.
Yeah, if Hal was in charge of your household, but even the Simpsons have done it at this point. Like, everybody's done it. It's just...
I mean, that's never fair. Simpsons have done everything.
I know.
Simpsons did your mom.
They did, probably. So, I'm just getting kind of tired of the same generic story of household controlled by AI. AI goes wrong.
But in this, like, you know, it starts off with what looks like a kidnapping, and you're like, okay, this is different. And the AI is basically pitting people against each other, which we've seen in things like, there's a Black Mirror episode where they kind of do that, but it's different. But the fact that an AI is doing it and kind of using people like pawns is an interesting concept. And then the movie it just fell into old habits, which is just a shame. So I'm going to say this is on our list, not because it's the worst thing I've seen. There was potential here. I could tell that the person who came up with this idea was really thinking of things that scared them. But I think it's like they got like, oh, I'm sleepy. I'm going to take a nap now. Yeah. Just do the end of Megan. Do one of those.
Yeah, basically just that. So, just no doll, but otherwise, it's your smart house that still wants to do you and kill you. Weird. Why is AI so horny this year?
I know, dude. You know what I never find is horny AI. I'm all the time hitting on Alexa, and she does that, which means she's pissed off. You know, if I say anything remotely horny, she is the most uptight girl ever. Yeah. Probably listening right now. She's fucking nosy.
Yeah, Megan did it too. Like I said, there was that Megan Fox movie I feel like did a slightly better job than this or but that was just like Megan, but guess what? She's an older and wants to do the dad. That's the only difference that was. So it's like, but this wanted to do the dad as well.
So I'm gonna give a spoiler alert for Fairpoint Station. I actually had a really great time with Trav. Yes, I recognize that it's poorly made, but I feel like when M. Night makes movies, it's like when your kid gives you macaroni art. It fills my heart with joy because he really is just trying to tell a good story. And this one, yes, we're going on Trap Ranch. He's also trying to make a movie for his daughter, but it was really entertaining. Some of it, you know, not intentionally, but it was a 3-star movie for me.
And plot was silly and all over the place, but at least the people talked like people this time. When he made Old, I feel like AI wrote the dialogue because that didn't make any sense the way they were even talking Old.
That one I think did make our list that year just because it was so poorly done. But you know, it was kind of cheesy and fun, so we give it a pass.
Yeah.
Yes, ScarJo, Alexa, her, like, there have been great ones. Another one, I don't know if it counts as AI. I want to say it does, but like Ex Machina, there's a few that are really, really good. But I think at this stage, we've seen enough of these that we need somebody, because I think people are already getting sick of it. Just like when people say they're sick of found footage, and then somebody does it great again. Mm-hmm. There hasn't been that many varieties of story here. So yeah. I know we have not exhausted the well. So let's just, you know, if this is something that inspires you, something that scares you. I know Kayla is terrified of AI. Kayla, make a AI movie, you know, because those are where we get like really good things from people who are actually afraid of these things and not just trying to tick off boxes.
Uh-huh. Nothing is going to necessarily ever beat HAL or the Terminator in its sense, but just do something different. Don't try to just do the same thing slightly better or slightly worse, because we've seen that. Just do something different with it. Anyways, I feel like we'll get a good one soon. There's a wave of them. It's bound to happen. Sure. Oh, yeah, that one too.
There's just so many.
Well, pick one.
Okay, I'm saving that one. Here, I'm just gonna. I feel like I've been talking a lot, so here you go.
You saw Tara.
Tag.
You fell asleep during this.
Wouldn't we be a great tag team?
Yeah. So, anyways, Gory fell asleep watching The Mousetrap with me. I fell asleep watching Tara earlier. Yeah, I watched this with Lols, and if anything, Lols got a kick out of just how insanely, spontaneously, and random it is, and it never goes anywhere in anything. I agree. One of my reviews for this is, so much happens in this movie, Mousetrap, but nothing happens at all. Like, there's a part where he puts somebody on a roller coaster ride, and it, like, makes it go fast for a little bit, and you think he's gonna, like, get him a good kill, but then the roller coaster ride just comes to a stop, and the guy runs away. It's Mickey Mouse. They just had a stupid slasher movie, and they threw on Mickey Mouse so they could be the first Mickey Mouse horror movie. We're going to get a couple more. There's going to be more and more. We're getting horror movies of Popeye and all the other ones like Peter Pan. And like,
it's a bummer, too, because it's so hard to get Lols to watch a horror movie with us. Yeah. And then he'll be like, well, I don't want to watch one with you because they all suck. And it's like, because you choose to watch the crappiest ones. Yeah. So I only caught the beginning, but I was just like... You know, like, they squeezed the Steamboat Willie footage in there. Like, it really had nothing to... They had this weird, it's almost like a Chuck E. Cheese, but it's at night and there's no lights on.
Because you could tell they were filming after hours.
And there's nobody there.
Uh-huh. Like, even when they're not closed yet, because they do an after party after they close. But they're still filming before that, and you can tell that the lights are off, and, like, nobody's coming... Because the whole movie was filmed after hours, of course. Which, I get it. Low budget. That's how it is. I'd give that a pass if it wasn't the only problem. There's also, like, this whole jumping back and forth because, like, the girl is being interrogated by these cops that are in the fakest-looking jail cell I've ever seen, but whatever. And that pretty much tells you spoilers on who lives and dies right there because they straight up say to her, like, who's dead already. So when you're watching these teenagers and their little after party, you already know who's going to die because they've already told you. So it's just boring. And Mickey Mouse stabs people very boringly, most of the time off camera. You never get any real good kills in this. Like I said, there's a few setups where you're like, oh, we're going to get a good kill. No, you don't. And he can teleport for raisins. Mickey Mouse can teleport, and they never explain why.
And I think what frustrates me about this one is the reason why Blood and Honey frustrated me. And I was so, like, I had to see it because it came out at our theater, which was just bizarre. But it made it on just the name alone, just the idea of a Winnie the Pooh horror movie, and it was garbage.
Yeah.
I actually didn't put the second one on here this year because I feel like now that the guy's got some money and he's taking it a little more seriously, he's really trying to incorporate actual Winnie the Pooh into making it a horror movie, and it really wasn't bad. I'm not going to say it's good. It's not on the good list either. It was just, you know, it was like, oh, that was actually not bad. That was decent.
And the main reason we're not going to also talk about Blood and Honey because it would just be very redundant of this movie. So
yeah,
but
this
like,
one
less
though
bad.
Feels like a cash grab.
Yeah,
like they were just like, just put a Steamboat Willie mask on it and call it a day. They didn't. Mm-hmm. It really has absolutely nothing to do with Steamboat Willie. It's just, I guess, the guy who owns the place is a fan and has the mask.
He slapped you with his Willie, which I would say they did the same thing in the first Winnie the Pooh movie, but then we were like, we all went and saw it in the theater enough to where he made enough money off it. He's like, oh, you like it. You like a little punishment, right? So, yeah.
Well, that's what I'm saying, and that's why the first one did so poorly, because it had nothing to do with Winnie the Pooh, whereas the second one, he's incorporating that lore and stuff, and if you take the time to do that and actually take it seriously, then maybe you'll have something good. I don't know, I haven't watched any of the reviews on the new Peter Pan one, but that's a concept that I find inherently kind of freaky, that this guy whose shadow gets away from him and just takes kids flying away in the window. Like, that freaks me out, like, big time. That's ample room for a horror movie, but you really have to look at the source material and show that you've read it or seen it.
Yeah, and there's like some theories where Peter Pan, like the Lost Boys actually do age there. They just become pirates, and as soon as they get to a certain age, it's like he who stands behind the rose, like, you have to leave the Lost Boys and go become a pirate now. So Hook's actually
like 1%ers with their wives.
Pretty much, yeah. Anyways, Mousetrap had nothing to do with Mickey Mouse. They shoehorned a little bit of a Steamboat Willie cartoon in the beginning just to explain why he's kind of there. It doesn't still explain anything, to be honest. And it was just, it could have been any generic killer in the same exact movie, but let's cash in on that mouse.
And it's not just cashing in on that, because like, Brandon mentioned it's set in an arcade, but it's very much like a Chuck E. Cheese arcade. So they're trying to get that Five Nights at Freddy's action too. So they're like, hey, Winnie the Pooh is getting a lot of attention with their movies. Five Nights at Freddy's was one of the most successful movies, believe it or not, of last year. It broke a lot of records. This movie was really just trying to get a payday.
And I know you never get actual Disney on board for this, but that would be an amazing movie where Disneyland, like animatronics and people like in the costumes actually coming to like kill people together. Like either it's the people in the costumes or animatronics. If like Disney actually was on board, we could get a cool horror movie, but that ain't gonna happen.
It's a shame. I've talked to this with Kayla a lot over on our my channel when we have our book club. In literature, we're getting a lot of this cool stuff. There's a whole bunch of like Dark Alice in Wonderland books. There's a whole multiple series of books set from the villain's perspective, like the Sea Witch and stuff. And a lot of these are very good. I don't know why the copyright is so different with movies and stuff, but I know there is ways to do this stuff in a way that's interesting.
Well, it also helps that some of those movies, anyways, with Disney, were already copyright free when they made those movies, like Little Mermaid and stuff like that. So you can do them, you just can't have the specific Ariel, you know.
I'd say R-rated, Itchy and Scratchy kind of makes me think of the Twilight Zone movie, and also a little bit of Bill and Ted Bogus Journey.
Yeah.
A little bit.
But I'd be down for it. Yeah. Go for it.
Down to clown.
Honestly, I'd even at this point, if the Simpsons wanted to do a live-action horror movie, I'd be fine with that. But let's not stretch our imaginations too far, because Imaginary's here, and we got a little teddy bear. It's going to be scary.
So I'm going to do a don't eat this type thing. Don't watch this, read this. This movie, it's a cool concept. I really like the idea of basically imaginary friends, whatever, being some kind of an entity that latches onto children and gets them to trust you through, like your stuffed animals or what have you. It's a cool concept. This movie, there are no scares in this movie. There's one part where it turns into a scary bear. It's in the trailer. I didn't spoil it for you. And nobody died. One lady dies off screen. That's lame. Even for a PG-13 movie, that is lame. If you're gonna do that, what you can get away with, like I said before, as long as there's not a lot of blood, you can have scary images. And they have a cool kind of Beetlejuicy set at the end. That bear thing was cool. They could have done a lot of scary images to make up for the lack of gore and bloodshed. But they didn't.
Don't jump into the deep end just yet, Flickster. We'll get there. But I agree. I don't hate this movie. I was mildly entertained. But I feel like they did definitely drop the ball. It's like a cool yo-yo, but it didn't come back up. I wanted so much more with that bear. I wanted so much more with that world. And yes, I'd love to have some kills, like some good kills. I feel like that bear eating people, like if you could have actually seen that happen, that would be just terrifying nightmare fuel.
This is just like we're not mad, we're disappointed.
Yeah.
And what I'm going to recommend to you instead, I know it's a book, but it's like a movie.
Gotta use your imagination.
And you get an unlimited budget in your brain. Yeah. So put that on for size.
I felt like...
Kayla and I read this. It's called How to Sell a Haunted House. Oh. And Pupkin is a lot like that. So I'm just going to give you the very short, condensed version. But a woman who's never really been close to her mother, who was very whimsical, and she's very to business. Her mother has passed away. Her mother has tons of puppets and dolls, and, she just really was really resentful of that. She's kind of delving into why is she like that? Why did it drive her so crazy? And her brother and her are also like fighting for control of the house and stuff. And then she finds the old little pumpkin doll, and she remembers like all these things and how it really creeped her out. Her mom also has life-size dolls of her and her brother. It's really creepy. And then the dolls start doing stuff, and from there it gets even scarier. Like just their history with this doll and its ability to manipulate them, like especially the scene from the brother's point of view, like Grady Hendrix, man, like that should be a movie, because that was nightmare fuel, but it also tugged at the heartstrings and was very creative.
Yeah, I feel like this movie just didn't have its teddy balls. Like it just didn't quite go that extra step. It needed to be actually good. Like it was close. It could have been, like, I had some creepy ideas, but I just wanted, like, a kill or two. Anything that wasn't off camera there. Because I feel like if you cut it down, it'd be an okay episode of Are You Afraid of the Dark? Just, like, kind of that type of... If it was marketed for kids, that'd be a little different. But it is marketed to be, like, kind of actual scary, and it really just wasn't.
I wouldn't even say cut it down. I would say expand on the things that work and lessen the things that don't work. One of the things that worked is there's a list that Chauncey gives the little girl, and I thought that was really good. Like it says, do something that hurts you, do something bad, and I didn't have this situation with an imaginary friend, but I do remember going to church and then basically saying you're going to hell if you don't, get baptized and all this stuff. And so I was like, Mom, you gotta go to church. You gotta go to church. Like, I didn't even really understand why or the logistics of it. I was just told there was something bad that was going to happen. And I was a kid, so that's what I did. I went to church with my friend. Anyway, Chauncey could absolutely do that. You tell a kid something bad's going to happen to your family if you don't do this. That's the scariest thing that you can tell a kid, is that your parents aren't going to be there, or you're going to get taken away or something. They'll do just about anything to avoid that. And when he's getting her to hurt herself and stuff, I was like, oh, you could really push that without even showing a lot of gore.
Yeah, and even if it wasn't so much on camera and all violent, if that bear would have ate a kid in this movie, I would have given it an extra star.
If we had seen the douchey boyfriend being eaten, the other problem too is a lot of the dialogue in this really did, borrowing a note from Amanda the Jedi here, it really did sound like it was written by AI. Like when he's like, with his drugs and stuff. Like a lot of the lines in this, there was one line towards the end that was just so eye-rollingly bad. The dialogue was poorly written.
There's an episode of Tales from the Dark Side called Minor Ursula or whatever.
Ursa Minor.
Ursa Minor.
Which is the Little Dipper.
Yeah, and the little girl's always like, Teddy did it, Teddy did it. Even though it's technically off camera, that episode ends with the bear eating the girl and her mom. And so I give that like an extra star higher than Imaginary, even though it had like low budget, old, late 80s TV show.
And I do agree with Mr. Flickster said here, the twist about the bear. I think that's a compliment I heard a lot of people say, and I agree too. Like, that's something that was different and kind of freaky, like to realize that this bear you've seen, that your stepmother also sees is not there. Like, that kind of stuff freaks me the crap out when things mess with your perception of reality. So there was potential here, but ultimately it's on this list because that potential was not fully realized.
It didn't even have the balls to finish off the douchey boyfriend. It could have just at least killed. There's a body count that it creeps up on, but then it backs off accidentally. Just kidding, not gonna kill anybody. And that's one of the most disappointing things ever. But
alright.
Could have been good.
Yikes, that's gonna be an unpopular one. Let's go easy.
Alright. Time cut. We talked about this earlier.
So this was honestly probably one of my most disappointing because I was looking forward to this back in 2023 when it was first announced. Yeah. Christopher Landon was set to produce. He's the guy who did Freaky and Happy Death Day. This was billed as Scream meets Back to the Future. And I was like, this is amazing. And then Totally Killer came out, and I was like, God damn it. Like, it's the whole Deep Impact Armageddon thing. Like, they kind of rushed to the finish line with it first. And I was like, we got deprived of what could have been a cool movie, and it had a female director and all this stuff. And I felt like we were robbed. And then I found out it was coming out this year on I think it was Netflix. I was like, oh, heck yeah. Again. Oh, God. Oh, God. This is a train wreck.
Yeah, what was it? Killer Cut or whatever was actually better?
Totally Killer
was better.
This
Which,
one,
that wasn't great, but it was better than
this should be a fun premise. Like, you're trying to do Scream is Back to the Future. Those are both fun movies. This movie is not fun. This movie is very down in the dumps. This movie has a really inaccurate portrayal of 2003. Like, I was there, bruh. It wasn't like that.
As we talked about Y2K, at least that had different groups of kids. This feels like they all came out of the same, like, catalog for Old Navy. Like, that's how every kid dresses, and that's what every kid's into. And I was like, that's not really what high school was like. I graduated in 2003, so this is actually for me. This is mine. But no, that's not what it was like.
I know with a lot of time travel stuff, it is really hard to get the logic right. You know, you think a lot of them too long, and you're like, oh, and we're cross-eyed.
This was extra complicated.
This one, you don't even have to. You're like, that doesn't make any fucking sense. And I won't spoil it, but the killer identity especially makes no fucking sense.
Yeah.
No, that was a cheap shot, and it was crap.
And
the ending made no fucking sense.
And let's just say some of the characters know things about each other, and they're all cool with it regardless. It's like, no.
So this was like your Y2K, because I graduated in 99.
Exactly. So this one was like that. And like I said, at least with Y2K, they showed you varieties of kids. Not probably the most accurate, but better than this. This wasn't even like
the preppy kids I knew. This was like the kids who were on that, what was that, Zoe 101 show. Like,
yeah, every
like,
kid's
what reality are you? This wasn't the way high school was.
No.
Well, I wouldn't know. I was in high school, but I knew high school kids, and I was alive.
I was in high school. It's not how it was at all. And the killer's motivation, I'm going to tell you what it is. Lame. Just stupid lame.
It's just lame, and it doesn't make a lot of sense. It takes more than one
extra.
thing to completely change somebody's personality.
And extra, like, bitter to where it's unrealistic. Like, that's how bitter the killer is over that.
And then they're still okay with that person.
Right? It's just...
It was bad. It was bad. This was a turd.
Yeah, and also very... came off, I don't know, was it PG-13? Because, once again, all the kills are off camera, nothing good.
Yeah. And
there's a cool one with an escalator that's, like, setting you up to, like, oh, it's gonna be good. Nope, not good. Nothing in, like, this was good. Like, you set up a good kill there. Like, I want more movies like these where they're aimed at younger people, and I wasn't worried. Fear Street had balls. Fear Street, like, said, oh, guess what? We're going to tease that, like, bread slicer. We're going to use that bread slicer.
See, I disagree with that. Because, you know, I feel like balls are squishy and tender and so fragile.
Well, anyways. My point is...
Fear Street had vagina. Like, it could take a beating.
The point is, Time Cut and Imaginary, like, teased a lot of cool things and never went there.
It had labias
for
days.
Fear Street gave me those things, and I felt like it was targeted to young people as well, but it went there. That's why these movies are disappointing to me.
All right, are you ready for an easy one?
Oh, the crow.
The biggest problem with this one, like, there's some cool stuff in here. One, the way they're marketing this one is, this is supposed to make teenagers or young people today be like, that's me. Mm-hmm. I live in a small town, so maybe I need to live in the city. I don't know anybody like this guy. Two, it's a romance. They have her on the cover. They're like, this time we're going to show the romance. They have zero chemistry. They hang out and they do drugs for a weekend. Mm-hmm. He is easily made to doubt his love for her. Like, I didn't get epic romance from this. No. I got, they're going to date for a couple months and then that's it.
Yeah, they, like, escape rehab together. It seems like a weekend. Maybe it was longer than that, but it was kind of hard to tell. Either way, they just went on a little bender. They, you know, let's do a lot of drugs, have a lot of sex, but that's all it is. Like, that's how certain relationships can be, but it does not tell me real love in any way. Like,
and again, I might have given it a pass because we've had worse crow movies.
Not the worst.
It's not Wicked Prayer. It's not. What really kind of rubbed me wrong about this one is that they named him Eric Draven. So if you don't know, in the comic, the graphic novel that is it's all based on, Eric doesn't have a last name. It's Eric and Shelley. They don't have last names.
Yeah.
The movie that had Brandon Lee in it, they gave him a last name. So I feel like, considering Brandon Lee died making that movie and this is his legacy, giving him the last name Draven was extremely disrespectful to Brandon Lee and the movie he made, because that was his character. You can call him Eric and give him a different last name. Or, because The Crow can happen with many different people, just make it a new character. They didn't use Shelley, so why are you using Eric?
Exactly. Like, if they can change her name, why does not change it him? Why does it have to be Eric? Annoying. Also, you know, he's got sexy Squidward, like, tattooed on his chest where the nipple is the eyeball. Like, what the... And the director said, I wanted 19-year-olds to look at this movie the way the 19-year-olds looked at the original and be like, that's me. I don't know how many people did that with the original Crow. I mean, it kind of with me because I was a huge, like, fan of wrestling, and Sting came out later, and I was doing that, mostly because I just like wrestling. I loved the Crow, and I loved wrestling. But that was still later. Like, when it first came out, nobody was doing that with the mime makeup. But anyways, lols, 19 years old, had him look at this movie and say, what does that make you think? Does that make you think you? He's like,
See, again, small town, so I don't know if people even did that with the original Crow, but I definitely can tell you that every guy I knew was like, I want to be like him. He's badass. And every girl was like, you know, I mean, we're talking straight people here. Everybody who liked boys was like, damn.
And yeah, I'm sure there are, it's kind of a mumble rapper like persona here. And there are people that are into that. I'm not saying there isn't, but it's still fairly niche for what I'm saying. It'd be like saying if the original Crow was like a juggalo that existed back then, but did that represent everybody?
Bummer, because the music they picked was a lot in line with, a lot of the music was in line with the original one, where the original one went for more like kind of goth. I was a goth kid, so I can attest that we listened to The Crow, Nine Inch Nails, My Life with a Thrill Kill Cult. A lot of the bands they picked were popular with the goth scene, and a lot of the music in here, like they had some Joy Division, stuff like that, was actually pretty good.
Yeah.
They had that one song by Enya that's really good.
It's stylized fairly well. I feel like it's stylized pretty well. And the big kill like scene, big fight scene in the end is pretty brutal. That's some nice things I can say about it. But once again, most problem with it is I just never felt like it was a true love. Like even in the movie, he's like, oh, I don't know if I actually do love her. Like, then why did you get crow powers? Like if it's not
crow powers. But yeah, like the action part in the second half isn't terrible. But this movie was really hinging on us buying this relationship, and I think first and foremost they should have cast for chemistry. Yeah. Not based on, oh, we can get Skarsgård, or oh, we can get, you know, I can't remember her name, FK Twigs, I think. You know, I think they were more like, you know, we can get these people, instead of thinking, are these people going to, you know, be good together? And it's also just the writing, because like I said, like no one's going to think that, I mean, I guess Romeo and Juliet were able to do it with just meeting at a party, but typically that just, you know, hanging out and doing drugs together for the weekend. It felt like they were together based, like the thing that bound them together was drugs. Like they were the kind of couple where one of them's eventually going to get clean and they're going to break up, or one of them's going to OD. Plus, and the ending, I won't spoil the ending, but what the fuck?
Yeah, it was dumb. And as Brandon mentioned out, yeah, Boy Kills World was great, and that's like a similar but better movie that came out this year. So Skarsgård's going to be fine. He had at least 2 great movies that came out this year.
Nosferatu, too.
Yeah, so this is just, sadly, you know, 2 out of 3 is not bad. And I feel like it was Deadpool without the fun, because it's just the same thing as Deadpool, like, slash, you know, any movie where the guy just kills everybody and he can't die, but they just took the fun out of it. It wasn't fun. Like, there was some cool kills in that big last scene, but that doesn't mean it was a good movie.
And the villain sucked in this, too. Like, it was so forgettable, I almost didn't mention it, which is lame, because they had Danny Houston, and he's usually pretty good, but it was just lame.
And I guess that's one of the reasons why it's somewhat horror, because, you know, demonic possession and sacrifice, but nah.
I included it. It was on a lot of horror lists, and it's listed as horror on Letterboxd, so bite me.
Peck you.
How about this one? So, I wasn't super disappointed, because this just snuck up on me in fall. I'm like, what? A werewolf movie? Because that's one of the things I'm always saying. Werewolves have been around for a long time. We haven't had a lot of creativity in their storytelling. This sounded really unique. There's the supermoon where everyone turns into, like most everyone turns into a werewolf. And they're trying to test out this vaccine, and it goes bad. And so it's kind of like, you even got that Frank Grillo guy, so it's like The Purge with werewolves, but it's lame.
That's kind of what it was marketed as, like Purge with werewolves. Like, it's unofficially kind of in the underworld universe where people know about werewolves, and the government's trying to do things about it, and everybody, I guess, is like, you could be genetically susceptible to that, but the big supermoon's going to turn a lot of people into werewolves, apparently, and they're all pretty much prepared for it, but it's all starting off like The Purge. We're getting all, like, ready to fight werewolves or whatever if they come into my house kind of thing. But it just wasn't nearly as fun as it could have been. Like, I feel like the movie was taking itself pretty seriously for how silly it was. It did kind of loosen up towards the end when it had like cool punk rocker werewolf and a couple other different werewolves at the end, but it was a little too late at that point. And also, like, they just killed off a major character when it was funny, so it kind of, like, defeated that whole character, because we're going to be serious and care about stuff. Now one of the main characters is dead, but, like, haha, it was a joke.
For this to work, you'd have to do a lot of characterization, something like the movie Red Moon, the book Red Moon, I mean, which they didn't. This is very just surface level characterization. You have a dead relative, just very easy characterization, and so that's fine if you want to do that, because you can, a movie like Independence Day has very easy characterization, but it works because it's really, really fun.
Yeah.
So you can have your overly sentimental moments, and people will be like, oh, okay, that's fine, because it's fun. Yeah. This movie is not fun, except for maybe a little bit at the end.
One more time, but this time without the oops.
So, it's a shame, because it could have been a fun B movie.
Could have been.
Oh boy, now we're going to get into ones that piss people off. You ready?
Sure.
So the first one that's going to piss people off is Oddity, because I know this is on so many people's best of list, and I am not saying you're wrong. It's on here because I was disappointed. Because a lot of people were like, this is the scariest movie of the year. And I can kind of see some of that, but this movie was boring. And slow as molasses. And that wood dude didn't do enough, and
Gollum.
There's a small cast, and I didn't really like anybody in the film. So I can see why it works for some people. For me, this was a massive miss. It's also very confusing the way it starts off.
Yeah, and we've had a few recent shows like that have revived, bringing back the miniseries of kind of like the Twilight Zone had a show recently, like shows like that. And I feel like you could cut this down and it'd be a good installment to one of those, like, just episodical TV shows where they have something scary and it's only like a 45-minute episode.
Yeah, this would have been great as, like, a Twilight Zone episode. This would have been great as a short film. Mm-hmm. This had not enough story to fill up the runtime. It got really boring really fast.
Yeah, Creepshow came back recently with, like, seasons of TV show. And I feel like it would have been a great episode of Creepshow. It would have been great if you had Tales from the Crypt nowadays. Like, with the budgets they give these shows nowadays. And I just feel like there's a lot of time where nothing's happening. Even the golem itself doesn't do much. And there's, like, this twisted story of, like, murder and, blackmail and all that stuff, and, like, just setting people up to take the fall. I think it would have been great if you cut a lot of that down and just focus on maybe a good 45, 50-minute episode of something.
I think it would have also been better if there was more people in the family. There's only 2 people in this family that they're really going after.
Exactly.
And the one girl, I don't want to be shitty because I hate to shit on people's acting, but the woman who plays the wife is pretty terrible.
I just felt like there's a lot of pissing time in this, for me. And the payoff was okay, but for the fact that there was so much pissing time, I wanted better. That's all I'm going to say.
Yep. So, it's not bad. It was disappointing, as far as we're concerned.
Yeah.
Oh, boy. We're going to make them mad. Let's do an easy one where they still like us. Night Swim. You guys didn't like it either, right? Right? None of us liked it. We're all the same.
The scariest costume that anyone can dress up as.
They're not going to get your reference.
Right.
You have to explain it.
So, Onyx the Fortuitous, a.k.a. David Bowser,
Andrew Bowser.
Oh, Andrew Bowser, sorry. He goes to conventions and he does a lot of his shtick at conventions. Like, he started off with creepy E3 guy and eventually became Onyx, and he was a creepy satanic guy, creepy there's a hole in the ground kind of guy. He just did all these weird things. But recently, he went to a convention. He's like, guess what I'm dressed as? And he's dressed as the pool from Night Swim. And just look it up. It's hilarious. A lot of people didn't understand his costume, of course. But it's the best thing that came out of this movie.
Honestly, like, when I saw the poster, I was like, dude, it is terrifying when you have your period and you have to run laps in the pool at school. Like, I kind of thought that's where we were going with this, Or when they put that blue stuff in there so they know if you pee. Like, dude, there's chlorine in it. Why you gotta be on my ass about peeing in the pool?
My stepdad...
I don't pee in the pool, though.
We used to have a little pool, like, above ground pool. It was like 3 feet tall, but my stepdad would always say that to my friends, and then one of my friends would get out, like, as soon as he'd say that, he'd be like, oh, really? I don't want a purple ring around me, and he'd get out and go pee in the alleyway, because he was really afraid that it was true, and it wasn't true. But
this movie, the reason why it's just really, it's cheesy. Honestly, I don't want to be a dick, because the woman who plays the wife in this is pretty good. But Wyatt Russell was poorly cast in this film. He is just ridiculous. We're getting into Cage territory here. And I'm not shaming Wyatt Russell, just like I don't shame Nicolas Cage. He's been good in a lot of things. He is not good in a role where he needs to be scary. It's just not in his wheelhouse unless it's supposed to be funny.
Plus, it's Anytime Swim, because a lot of the scares aren't scary, and they happen during the day, so why is it called Night Swim?
And the movie is, like, so obsessed with baseball.
And water. Baseball and water.
And
is it Signs all over again?
some of the stuff I did like in here, and again, it's kind of like imaginary, where there were some ideas in here that I thought were kind of cool. I did like the idea, like this kind of made me think of, if you've seen Paranormal Activity 2, they show the pool, I'm like, oh, they're going to do something cool with the pool. Because there are cool things. Like at one point in this, a woman's going to try and save her son, and they trick her, and they make her think that she's going up when she's going deeper down. That's really clever. Mm-hmm. More stuff like that, like messing with people's reality and stuff, is really, really good. It only takes a couple drops of water to drown. So, yeah, that stuff is really, really cool.
Yeah, if you could have made the villains, I don't know, whatever the villain is technically, more interesting and have some more of that kind of nonsense in there, it could have been a fun movie. Unfortunately, I was bored to tears with this movie. Like, I could fill a pool with my bored
tears. And honestly,
tears.
the scene from Final Destination 5, which they stole from Guts by Chuck Palahniuk, whatever his name is, that's scarier than this movie. So, it's just missed opportunity. There's a lot of cool stuff they could have done here, and they just didn't do it.
The irrational fear of a shark somehow being in the pool with you was scarier than this movie when I was a little kid. That's just how it is.
But, I mean, honestly, a lot of families sadly do lose family members to pools, you know, it's very easy to drown. And I do think a haunted swimming pool could have been cool. I also think the idea of basically any kind of thing where somebody has to sacrifice somebody else to save somebody, because it's like the original Ringu movie. Like, at the end of that movie's old, I'm sorry for the spoilers, at the end of the Japanese Ringu, she's going to show the cursed tape to her father to save her son, which makes you think, like, you know, people might love you, but do they love somebody more? Because if so, you're fucked.
Right. And, yeah, it just... this movie's all wet.
But, and I'm glad the Blumhouse got a pool.
Yeah.
Oh, boy. So we're going to go back to them hating us. So, let's go with... this one, just get it out of the way?
Yeah, why not?
We don't hate it, but we were really disappointed.
All right, I gave this straight up 3 stars just because
2.5.
I need to rewatch it. I admit it. Like
I do too.
I want to it's going to either go up a half a star or down a half star. I know that I'm comfortable to be close. Like, it's not going to go high, drastically down or up. It's somewhere around 3 stars for me. I want to watch it again because most of the time when you hate a movie, someone's like, well, you just didn't get it.
And it's possible. This is one I'm willing to say maybe I didn't get it. And
maybe.
I'm going to blame the marketing, which, yes, it was very, very vague. But everything was like, it's like Silence of the Lambs. So I'm expecting murder mystery. I got that there was like some devil worshipping, but I did not know this was a supernatural movie. So when the movie pulls out, oh, we're a supernatural movie, in the 3rd act, I felt really cheated. I was like, oh, bullshit. Like, you know, when you're playing rock, paper, scissors and people start pulling out Vulcan and Lizard and shit. I was like, oh, no. That's against the rules.
Right.
So maybe I wasn't paying enough attention and there was supernatural hints that were more in your face. But I felt like it was bullshit. I was really annoyed with the ending. I think just a supernatural, or not, just a straight up mystery thriller that's gory along the Silence of the Lambs would have been scary enough. And I think if they wanted to go with it's the actual devil, then I think it should have been very clear from the beginning. Like, making it clear that it's actually, like, show the big, you know, devil or whatever in a shadow. Like, obviously not hidden in the background in the beginning.
Yeah, I didn't really know what to, like, speak of it. Because even if like I said, it might go up a little bit for me. It might go down a little bit for me. I need to rewatch it, but... either way, it's always just going to be kind of a lesser Silence of the Lambs meets Blood Harvest, like with Tiny Tim. Like,
the other problem I have, okay, yes, it's a lot like Blood Harvest, which is campy. The other problem I have with this movie is Oz Perkins makes his movie sound a lot cooler in interviews because he'll tell you all this stuff. Like, he tells you about the Longlegs guy, how he was a glam rocker and all that stuff. That's really, really interesting. Why wasn't it in your movie? Because you put a lot of other shit that was, like, just pissing time in your movie, and I would have liked that. some of that stuff, because like I didn't think the lead actress, not the actress, but the lead character, I didn't think she was very interesting. I was intrigued because it seemed like she might, be on the spectrum or something, or maybe it was because of her abilities. But I feel like it wasn't really that explored.
No, I felt like I was missing something. Like they didn't show me what I was supposed to see. Maybe, I don't know. There's creepy little sex dolls in it. It's weird. It's kind
Don't
of all...
call them sex dolls. They were kids, you creep. You're a creep.
They're creepy.
But they are creepy. And like, I almost feel like he just took a lot of things that he thought were creepy. You know, like the calls are from inside the house, dolls, people who speak in weird falsetto. I feel like he just took a lot of things that were creepy and threw them into a blender, but he didn't really think of a story that tied it together in a way that for me was satisfying. I know a lot of you love this, and I have mad respect for you, and I promise I'm going to give it another chance. And if I see the light, and I want to, because I like being a part of the party where we're all like, yeah, that was awesome. I like being a part of that. And right now I'm just kind of like, wasn't that good? Like, I'm that guy, and I hate being that guy.
Yeah, I didn't hate it, but I went out going, everybody was just telling me how amazing this was, and I'm like, I don't feel anything.
It was just a lot of...
I don't feel anything.
Style over substance. Like, there's a lot of style here, cool camera stuff, there's good actors, some cool ideas, but the story just didn't work.
It's fucking sweet and low, but maybe if we snort enough of it, we'll get high. I don't know.
Maybe. So, sorry if you guys hate us. Feel free to give us a thumbs down. Interaction is great, one way or another.
And, yeah.
Plus, it's Dan's channel, so what do I care?
Yeah, I know there's going to be something to crack a few eggs, and... That's why I was like, okay, like I said, it's not rated that low on my overall list. It's just, I need to rewatch it, and I admit it. Maybe it went over my head somehow.
Oh, they're going to really hate the next one.
All right.
Okay.
Okay, I did get this one, and...
I feel like I got this one. Here's the thing. This one really rubbed me the wrong way. This movie is all kind of playing on the whole, like... Me Too thing, where this girl, I don't really want to spoil it for you, but she's really playing up on the whole part of she's a victim. And it's really counting on, it's honestly saying that, people will automatically believe you if you're a little white girl. And maybe that's the case. That's what seems to happen in this movie. Here's what bugs me about this, is they're telling a very female story that's very culturally relevant. And there's not a single woman involved in the making of this movie. Not directing, not writing, not producing. What's more, it's produced by the Weinstein Company, which hasn't had a movie out in a while. If we're going to have an anti-Me Too movie, maybe not have the Weinstein Company release it. Because to me, this felt like it had an agenda. And I really didn't like the agenda. Yeah.
I would say, I'm not going to tell you what the ending is, but the ending could have been worse. Like... What happens in the end means it did help. It definitely helped.
For me, this is a 2.5 star. I'm not saying I hate it. I see why you guys like it. It's twisty. It is up its own ass, because it does tell you what frame rate it's filmed in. And it does have title cards. Like, Tarantino can get away with it. You're not Tarantino. It's wanking itself off a lot. But it does have Kyle Gallner in it, and the actress in this is fantastic. There's some cool camera stuff. I wanted to like this. But the constant talk about whether or not we should believe women who are abused, and basically the consensus being, when you have all of your characters who are heroic saying this, that's your director telling you how to think. When you have them saying maybe we shouldn't believe every woman... that rubs me wrong, especially from the Weinstein Company.
Yeah, that does give a bad taste in the mouth after, that kind of stuff. So...
I think if they wanted this to work, if they didn't intend this, now there's a chance they didn't intend it, but to me it's a little too... It feels like it's got an axe to grind. I haven't felt this way about a movie since I saw Isn't It Romantic? I'm like, wow, you hate romantic comedies. What are you doing here? I feel like it had an axe to grind, and I know a lot of you guys didn't get that from this movie. I did. And if that wasn't the director's intention, I want to say this about anything. If you're telling somebody else's story, in this case, women's stories, women's who've been abused story, don't use my grammar.
You're an English major, right?
If you're telling the story of somebody that you don't represent, a group you don't represent, get those people involved in your project. So this story, they should have maybe gotten their lead actress involved as a producer, or maybe gotten a female writer on board, because it felt wrong.
It's an interesting story told by the wrong people. Let's just say that. Like,
yeah, with some women in the room, it could have been good. But, like, you know, I'm not going to go out and tell the story of people who aren't me. And I'm going to be a little annoyed when people who aren't women are telling stories about women.
Yeah.
Particularly something that's very cultural relevant, and women are still... it's scary how many women have been sexually abused. And most of the time, there is no justice. So don't believe what this movie tells you.
And it doesn't seem like the world's going to get any better anytime soon. So
I mean, it's still not a safe place in the world right now to tell somebody that you've been sexually abused. Because a lot of times the guys get away with it. So I think we are not in a place for this kind of movie right now. I think it's going to hold us back.
Yeah. Anyways, so that's how we feel about that.
I'm sorry if you disagree with me. Please, politely, let's have a discussion in the comments.
And when they say, like, you know, don't separate the artist from the art, I can see why people do like this. There is some cool violence in there. There's some cool, like, twists in a sense. But, and like I said, like, the ending made it so it wasn't as bad as it could have been.
I actually I liked the ending. There are parts of this I liked. I mean, it's just like, I wanted them to go back to the writer's room. Take a lady with you. Yeah. You know, because this is such a hot button issue, and I don't feel like it was handled appropriately.
Granted, maybe women shouldn't be working for the Weinsteins, so maybe it was best.
Yeah, that was the biggest mistake. I'm sorry. I know this is supposed to be an indie movie, and I know the Weinsteins have a lot of money, and I feel like...
I think one of them's locked up, but I don't know what's going on. So
take the pay cut and go with anybody else, because that really, for me, was a bad look. I haven't seen a movie come out from the Weinstein Company in a while.
So it's kind of weird that this is the movie
and
that they
this
released.
Is the one that did. I just don't think it's a coincidence, guys. So, yes, if you can help me look at this differently, I would love to. But, you know, also look at these things, too. You know, it can't just be a good twist.
Yeah.
King, what's up? And Mr. Flixer says, the conclusion is perplexing, raising in an infinite amount of questions. Worst of all, it has such an abrupt ending. I couldn't ask myself, that's it? Nothing gets resolved? It just stops? Yeah, I mean, I think it had potential. That's why this is the list of most disappointing. It's not the worst. I've seen worse movies. There's talent here. This was disappointing because it had potential.
And as for it just stops. I mean, you got, you know, your Devil's Rejects, you got your Natural Born Killers. Sometimes killers are just going to kill until they're done, until it just happens. Something stops it for them. Doesn't make it great, doesn't make it better. I feel like, I'm not even explaining, like, I don't want to get into it. Like I said, I don't want to spoil it, but the ending could have been way worse.
I don't think we should talk about it anymore. We don't ruin it, because a lot of people haven't seen it. But I do agree with King. Like, that's what I'm saying. I do think there is a conspiracy theory here. You know how people say that they get, like, certain people, they hire people, you know, they say Johnny Depp did it. They say it's happening right now with the Blake Lively thing. They hire things to do certain PR. I feel like somebody pushed this across the Weinstein's desk because they're like, this is going to help your cause. And
I hope that ain't the case, but
I really hope that's not true. But that's how that's how it looks. Yeah. Look at how many other movies the Weinsteins are coming out with right now. It's sus.
It's weird that that's what they...
And it's a little indie movie. Mm-hmm. So, it's sus.
It is. All right, what else we got?
Now that everyone hates me.
I think everyone hates you.
Everybody oh, gosh. The movie I could not... Oh.
All right, so we got Nick Frost. We got Batgirl.
Don't.
What?
You share respect.
Yeah, okay, we got Cher.
So this movie, it sounds cool on paper. You have like a 90s sitcom, something like Full House, and you turn it into a horror movie. Oops, I think my stream was supposed to start. Oh, well, we're going to go straight over to my channel after this.
We're almost done.
So this is our last movie.
Yeah.
But the concept here is you have a 90s type situation. They have the dog and the cute family, and there's lessons to be learned, and they're also funny. I mean, we got Nick Frost here looking like freaking he looks like Monterey Jack from Rescue Rangers.
That's a good way to describe him. I kind of like...
That's how it looks to me.
Personality-wise, he's like accident-prone and dumb like Peter Griffin, but like very wholesome and God-loving like Ned Flanders. So, but yeah, Monterey Jack is a good explanation.
But here's the thing, like, this is kind of like what I said with the last movie. I get kind of turned off when I feel like a movie has an agenda. I like a movie to set the table for me and be like, here are some things for you to chew on, and you make your own decision. Mm-hmm. You know, something like Midsommar does that.
Yeah.
This movie is like beating you over the head with, no, you're going to think this way, and I'm going to keep beating you over the head with it until you get it. This movie is extremely racist towards people who are Russian. We'll start with that. But the biggest thing is just the anti-Christianity. Now, I'm Wiccan. I am not somebody who's like, oh, I'm so offended, but like,
pretty much atheist.
this is not the way. This is not the way. Basically, he's doing all these things because there's going to be some reward and all this stuff. And I get it, but the argument wasn't very good. You know what is a better movie to watch? If you want to have an interesting, fair discussion about religion. I thought it was fair. Again, we all have different brains and different opinions. Heretic. Heretic really, I do think gives you kind of a balanced thing. Because you've got Hugh Grant saying all these like very anti-religious things. And then the Mormon missionaries come right back with stuff that's equally clever, and then you're left chewing on all these different things and going, well, what do I think? This movie is very clear with what it wants you to think. I'm just going to lay it out there because I'm not often offended by this, but this did offend me. I do not like babies or dogs being killed for shock value. Both are done here. It's low-hanging fruit.
Like, they were quick to pat themselves on the house, like, how we went there. Isn't that funny?
There's a lot of fourth wall breakage. This movie's not Deadpool. It's not clever. It's not funny.
I feel like they could have, like, used that fourth wall breaking to go with the whole sitcom thing better, but they do it very sparingly, and by the time they are doing it, I've already hated the movie.
I can't remember what country made this, but you can definitely tell that they have a bone to pick with Americans, they have a bone to pick with Russians, and they have a bone to pick with Christianity. And it kind of makes it seem that, like, this is their view of Americans, that we're all super, like, stuck in old traditional roles, like the housewife and the father, and we're all very Christian. And it's like, again, it's the same, when you come down to it, it's the same problem as last time. If you're going to critique American culture or Christianity, probably good to get some maybe Christians or Americans involved in your writing team so that you don't look like you have an axe to grind.
Actually, you mentioned the housewife, and actually it starts off with her being the breadwinner, her being the, like, corporate girl that goes out there and makes all the money, but she's not happy. They make it very clear. She's very upset that her husband's just kind of a bumbling idiot. But at the end, when he gets, like, ballsy and strong and stands up for himself, she's all of a sudden wants to do house cleaning and dishes, and she's happy because that's where a woman's place is supposed to be, apparently. It also is, like, trying to give you this message where America is all full house, where they believe in God and God will solve all their problems. They got the white picket fence and everything's all, like, hunky-dory, leave it to Beaver style. But really, everything under their dumb, naive noses, like homosexuality, drug use, immigrants coming in looking for work, is all going to bring them crashing down and destroy their
it's basically
life.
A political cartoon saying that Americans are hypocrites.
Yeah.
That's what this movie is. Americans and Christians are hypocrites, and this movie equates us as one and the same.
Yeah.
Which, if you live in America, it's a pretty big country. We're not all Christian.
No.
We're all very different, particularly depending on region.
But yeah, he is a stay-at-home dad who thinks God will save him and, like, fix everything when he just breaks everything. His wife is hardworking, but that's showed that that's not a good thing in this movie. His daughter has premarital sex. That's obviously not a good thing in here. His son is becoming, like, homosexuality and stuff, so that's also not a good thing. Everything is ruining him. He also, these immigrants come into him like, we'll fix your house, we just need work, we're immigrants. And he trusts them, because he's a naive, dumb American.
Yeah, so it's all hypocritical.
Exactly, that's all going to destroy him, and he has to finally realize that the government and Jesus aren't going to save him. Like, that's the big message he needs to learn, and once he starts doing that, his family kind of falls more in line to the way that makes them happy, and all that bad stuff goes away. It's like, was that really bad stuff? No, it's not.
When you remember that this is a foreign film, it kind of rubs you the wrong way. Yeah. So I think we've ranted about it enough. I am bummed that King TL says Abruptio. I've been wanting to see that for a long time. I know Jordan Peele's in it. James Marsters from Buffy does a voice. Puppets? Ooh. It sounds like my thing, but now I'm bummed. Also, I feel like I watch King TL's channel. Do you do Buffy videos? I feel like I watch your channel. If so, I love your channel. I think you're the same guy, but you may not be. Anyway. All right. I'm such a nanny. What? So that is it. We, wow. The negativity is strong. I am ready to go be positive. So, like we mentioned before, we are skipping our mid ones. You know, anything that was mid for us, 2.5, 3 stars, unless it was just really disappointing. If these were 2.5 for us, but it's just because we respect the artistry, but they were disappointing.
Yeah.
Now we're just going to talk about the things we love, and hopefully you love them.
It's hard, honestly, to get lower than 2.5 stars for me. You really have to mess up. 2.5 to 3 means you made a solid movie. Just wasn't for me. But some of these, they dropped the ball pretty bad. Some of them, just a little bit, mostly just disappointing because they had potential to do so much better. But anyways, sorry to be such negative Nancy's on this, but we're going to go ahead and switch over to Gory's, and we're going to put on our smiles, talk about movies we loved.
Take a 5-minute break. So at 7:45... over on my channel, Gory B Movie, youtube.com/Gory B Movie. I think there's a link in the doobly-doo down below.
Yeah, there is. To the your channel and to the video itself.
Thank you. Thank you very much. We will be over there, and we will continue on in a more positive way.
Yeah. Take a bathroom break and meet us back, and we'll say about what was good.
And thanks to Brandon, Connie, King, Zigma, everyone. Hopefully we see you guys all over there. Mr. Flickster.
Thanks for watching.
Brandon.
Join us over at Gory's for the after party, in a sense. Let's do it. Happy times.
Cut!
Cut.